Hello guys, welcome back to the D&N Medical Series. I'm Damar and I'm here with a brand new tutorial video. Now in today's video we're going to look on primary hemostasis. Alright, so we look on the coagulation cascade recently, and that's basically secondary hemostasis. So before the coagulation cascade occurs, you have the primary hemostasis, and this occurs within seconds of an injury. So when you have a subendothelial injury, right, this is when primary hemostasis occurs. But first, the major component of this primary hemostasis system is your platelets. All right, so the platelets are derived in the bone marrow from stem cells, as with every other cell. So the blood cells, the red ones and the white ones, all come from the bone marrow. All right, and this same very stem cells can differentiate by growth factors into your megakaryoblast. Right, after the megakaryoblast is formed, it basically differentiates again into your megakaryocytes, and this megakaryocytes, it has a lot of cytoplasm. So at this stage it is basically not enlarging based on DNA replication, but the cytoplasm is actually getting bigger and bigger as you go along. This is in preparation for the making of your platelets. So your platelets are actually fragmentations of this big megakaryocytes. So the megakaryocytes basically breaks up into a lot of pieces, and these forms a platelet. So the normal platelet is about 150 to 400 times 10 to the 9 per liter. All right, so that's the normal platelet counts. Let me write it for you. So it's actually 150 to 400 times 10 to the 9 per liter. All right, so that's the normal amount of platelets in a person's blood. What you need to know is that the process of forming these platelets actually takes about 8 to 10 days. And platelets, the lifespan of them is about 7 to 10 days. All right, so similar lifespan. And what else you should know about platelets? Platelets plays an important role when there is injury, right? To stimulate other platelets for platelet aggregation and adhesion, and for forming clot. And this clot is very important in case of injury. We're just going to jump in the process now of primary hemostasis. All right, so let's jump right into the process of primary hemostasis. Now, an important step that occurs almost immediately is vasoconstriction, and this step is very important because a lot of people always forget this step. So remember, the first thing is vasoconstriction. You're trying to control the blood flow to the area. This is important after a subendothelial injury, and there's a positive feedback between it and platelet granules and thromboxane A2. All right, so the more platelet granules form is the more vasoconstriction that is occurring. Get it? All right, so next, after we have vasoconstriction, we basically have adhesion. And as you can see, it's color coded, so blue and blue. All right, so adhesion occurs when the binding site GP1B, which is the first binding site, is stimulated, right? So what occurs is that von Willebrand factor actually binds to the GP1B binding site, or the glycoprotein 1B binding site, and that stimulates the adhesion. Once this occurs, it basically exposes the next receptor for binding. So it's basically similar to your troponin binding and rolling away the head for actin and myosin to bind, right? It is similar exposure. So once GP1B is activated, it basically exposes GP2B and 3A receptors, and it's binding two things. So you see two strokes here, 1, 2. All right, so it's binding von Willebrand factor as well as fibrinogen. But here you can see that between adhesion and aggregation, there's actually activation of your platelets, and these include different platelets chains. So the platelets now get pseudopods and they change shape, and this causes activation. All right, so aggregation occurs again when GP2B and 3A binds to von Willebrand factor and fibrinogen. There is also a third receptor, which is the GP1A binding site, which is directly binding to collagen. All in all, these processes enables a clot to be formed, right, or a plug to be formed to stop basically the bleeding from occurring. And after a while, this clot is retracted, right, and it's dissolved, and this requires plasmin. So primary hemostasis occurs in seconds. Is basically the first thing that occurs, and then after this we would have our coagulation cascade. All right, to summarize, vasoconstriction, then we would have adhesion, which is the GP1B site binding to von Willebrand factor. Then now this exposes the GP2B 3A, which is binding to two things, your von Willebrand factor and your fibrinogen. Between this process, however, of adhesion and aggregation, there is basically the formation of pseudopods on the platelet, and the platelets also change shape to activate itself. Once this occurs, it moves on to the aggregation. Also, there is another binding receptor which is causing adhesion. It's the GP1A, which is causing direct binding to collagen. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next tutorial video. Alright, that's it guys. Bye.